top 30 executives, right? Unbelievably skeptical, let's say, just to say it might.
Because these are smart guys who made a ton of money, and they're saying, what can Robbins possibly teach
some
us
positive
that we don't know
guy
about
with
life?
big
That's
ass
right.
teeth,
He's one more guy coming in. Exactly. He's one more tall guy coming in here telling us the secret to life, and we've already heard it. And not only that, we've practiced it.
Right. Or I go to tomorrow I'm in Boston, I'll have 15,000 people. So in that group, you're going to have every one of the people you can think of. You have people that think I'm an idiot because they came to see somebody else.
This reminds me of my favorite Donald Trump story, which is that he evidently was promoting the fact, and somebody was doing a profile of him, that he had drawn 15,000 people to a meeting in Miami. I think it was. It wasn't 15,000 people come to see Donald Trump. They came to see because they thought they'd get some secret to life.
Well, I think they came to see Donald too. But the point is,
it's not what the piece said.
Well, I know it's not what the piece said, but the media isn't always totally accurate.
Oh, come on.
Right? But the point of the matter is, if you look at, what pushes somebody's buttons, it's not what pushes their buttons when people are around. It's what pushes their buttons when no one's around. And so the way you could do it is to talk to people who know me, who work with me, been with me 15 years, and they'll tell you what drives me. There's no question. I don't have to explain to them. But the reason I said SGI is...
But you're talking about love for your children, love for the new woman in your life, love for what?
Love for people and life. Love to see people alive.
Way back to the kid thing that you were talking about in terms of giving the money away when you went to the liquor store.
That doesn't change. These guys that went in there, I have the strength to be able to go head toe-to-toe with anybody, but I'm not stupid. I go toe-to-toe with you. All you're going to do is fight me. So... if I need to show you that like you're going to come in strong, I'm going to be strong for seconds, and we build some rapport, and then I can say, look.
Look what?
Look, I'm just here to try and help if I can. I don't have all the answers, but here's something there. I don't think, if you try to get up as a speaker, there was a man I used to work with in one of these venues that we did, big events, and we used to put comment sheets in, and he used to get ranked the lowest guy in the group, and they'd say, tear this guy off the stage. And the problem was, everything was about himself, proving how significant he was to everybody. So I went to him and I said, you keep demanding significance. If you will just go out and try to serve, not lead. Real leaders serve. I'm sorry, I misheard you. If you just go out there and share and be and care about these people, and try to serve these people instead of position with these people, they will adore you. It's like, here's my experience. If you love people, they will make you significant, because so few people are willing to unconditionally love. So very few people want to do that.
Again, you know everything about this, and I know nothing.
That's not true.
Having said that,
you're a human being, so you're a practical psychologist.
Having said that, every great trial lawyer I've ever met will tell you the best way, the only way, or the best way, not always the only way, is to say to that jury, help me.
Sure.
Give yourself to the jury. Say to that jury, Jerry Smith says this.
He's brilliant.
I am giving you every ounce of my brain and my energy and my body because, and here it is, I have done everything I can to, and therefore, that goes part of the way in having the jury identify with you, rather than you're the smartest, toughest, meanest guy.
All that does is people say, you think you're so significant, I'm going to take you inside.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you something else, though, honestly, for me. I've only realized this, honestly, in the last 9 months. I've made a lot of changes in my life. And
the last
9 months or so, I've made some distinctions.
Like what?
Like that I've lived most of my life, certainly driven by love, but that my way of doing it has been through sacrifice. The hero's model. That I'll sacrifice everything so people know I really love them, Right. And I realized how insane that is, and yet part of me wouldn't separate. So I've made the decision, I will sacrifice for those I love, but I don't have to every single minute, because I realized unconsciously I was always looking for ways. Now with an audience I do that. I win some people over because I will be on stage for 12 or 14 hours. They don't think they're going to sit for an hour. They have the time of their life because I turn into a rock and roll concert, and physically, with my intensity, humor, everything I can, I give every ounce of my body, my mind, my spirit. If I'm in pain, it's gone. It's totally about them, and they feel it. And I'm working so hard up there, they finally go, well, maybe I could do something here. Maybe I could stand up and really do this thing that he's talking about. It's like, what a leader does is you go first. Right. So I won't give that up in that context, but there's a balance where it becomes being a martyr, and that is something I'm not. And in the last 9 months, I realized that.
Or a victim. Or a victim.
Well, I would never be a victim.
Okay, right.
But I have been a martyr, is the truth, without admitting it. But me seeing that, that's not who I am, so you stop it. I think when you can see how you're being, and how you're being is not who you are, you'll change in an instant when you have an awareness of that. But it's hard to change something when you're not aware of it. And so now I feel like I just turned 40, and somebody said, oh, you're doing this and you're doing that. And, and grew a beard and stuff, you know, and people are freaking out over the most stupid little things. And I'm having,
what's
I'm
with
really
this
having
beard,
fun. Yeah,
Tony?
it's like, what is this, right?
Come on, I mean.
I said, I'm having a midlife celebration. And I'm early.
Well, then what is with the beard?
Oh, I just
You just decided you liked it? It was sort of nice, interesting look?
I've never done it.
And why change?
Actually, GQ magazine did an article on me, and they talked about how I was the most clean-cut, perfect. And I read that thing, and I thought,
I don't want to be that.
I'm tired of this. You know? I think I'll try something else. And
But then why a Van Dyke rather than a full whatever?
Just like,
I mean, what's
like
the...
Just a play. It's just for variety.
Yeah.
You know, something different.
You may
but
shave it off a month from now,
I'm going to
6
shake it off
months from
tomorrow.
now.
You know?
Tomorrow.
But what's happened is so many people said either look good or they got so freaked out about it because I'm like this icon for some people, being a certain way that I thought, the rebel in me said, I'm going to wear this a little longer than just mess with it a little bit. You know? Get a life.
Do you believe that... I've interviewed lots of very accomplished men and women.
Yes.
A number of them say, I could start over tomorrow and do this.
Yes.
Do you believe that you have, through a life process, accumulated enough, for the lack of a better word, success skills, that whatever you did, you could be very good at it?
Yeah, no
it's not win-lose here. Be very good at it.
It sounds like an egotistical answer, but all you're really asking me is, do I have absolute certainty within myself? And the answer is yes, not because I'm so bright, but because I have so much life experience. When you've been with millions of people, and I've been on stage with Diane Sawyer's shooting the camera with a business group, this is many years ago, and it was really an important media piece, I thought, for my career because it was all these corporate executives, and I wanted people to see that I wasn't some rah-rah guy. I hate the word motivation, by the way, because it's not what I really do. I really see myself as a strategist, and that's what I do. But because I use energy also, and that's easier for the camera to capture, that's really what it becomes, and people know where else to put it. So that's a motivational thing. So while they're filming this top CEO, who's like, you know, very, very celebrated, and they're going, wow, this is great positioning. This woman in the room who had 152 personalities, multiple personality disorder, right, MPD, starts splitting.
152?
152. She was one of the first MPDs in the country. Yeah. She starts splitting. And she starts talking like this weird thing, then a little boy and a little girl. And I'm like, oh my God, you know. But I got up and...
But she was a manager, was she?
No, this woman had managers, but she was someone from the general population attending the program. Fortunately, I'd read her forms, and it took me 45 minutes, and I did, you know, sometimes you just get in state, and I did some of the most magical work I've ever done, and I integrated her for the first time. She'd been in a psychiatric ward for 15 years. She'd been studied by everybody, been in therapy for all these years. And Diane Sawyer's people saw it, so it was magic as they captured it. They didn't do the story for a year. They followed her for a year because they said, there's no way this can stick. They interviewed her a psychiatrist. A year later, she's totally fine. She's still totally fine. That was such a defining moment. You have events like that. It's such a defining moment that your level of certainty that you can handle anything goes to the roof.
Okay,
and I've had thousands of experiences like that. I've had, you know, the President of the United States calls me up the night of the inauguration, I wish it was the inauguration, the night of the impeachment. You know, got to deliver. What are you going to do? You know, I've had the sports figure melting down.
So what's the conversation? He calls you up the night of the impeachment.
Right.
In other words, they're going to vote tomorrow.
That's right.
And says what?
I'm not saying it to try and
you're not at all.
Mysterious or something like that. I don't talk about what someone says unless they talk about it. So athletes or, you know, Quincy Jones, somebody shared something, I share it. But the reason people call me is because they don't share the private conversation.
Why did the president call you?
He called because
what
he
was
trying
to. What do you need?
He's getting coaching from a lot of different people, me being only one of them, about
See, I find this
what
smart.
to do.
I mean, I think you know, he's reaching out sort of
to many different sources, which is great.
So, but the question is what?
What do you? Well, the question in essence is, what do you do?
Right.
You know, how do you deal with something? And you've got choice points, and how do you evaluate?
So, what's
your
advice in a circumstance like this, specific?
Depends. Listen to you. You think you're going to win right in there, don't you? I know you're good, but for God's sakes. No, I'm not going to answer the question, but let me just ask you that question.
Specifically,
what you do is
what did you tell the president?
I share with the president my point of view as a citizen in that case with as much passion as I can about what
but that's
right.
That's the attitude. What did you say specifically?
I can't tell you in that situation.
You can't? I'm not asking you what the president said. I'm saying, what did you say?
Because what I say would be reflective of what is private between he and I in that conversation. I'm not trying to be evasive. I'm just being respectful.
Okay, I hear you, and I respect that. Now, but just what's
the point is, the point was not that issue. The point is, I've had situations, so many, from the psychiatric situation to, you know, where you got to deliver now to a now, and you got to step up and deliver. I've been in situations where I look like I'm going to be bankrupt. I've been in situations. I
got it. So my point is, what do you say? In other words, I think this is a very important point. Here it is, you're facing some huge, it doesn't get any huger than, well, it does, but I mean, it can do with the loss of family.
Yeah,
that's as tough as it gets. Someone someone told me a conversation today, and they were talking about the loss of a young son.
Yes.
And they said, this is a very public, popular, well-known person, said the agony is unbelievable. You cannot ever, whatever pain I've felt in my life, this is 100 times it.
I just did
to lose a child.
I just did a program in Palm Springs. I do a program called my university program. I have people from 75 countries come, and 6 languages are translated simultaneously. So it's the most diverse environment you can imagine. It's a seminar on discovering what are the beliefs and values that control every decision you make every moment you're alive. Because you don't make decisions in a random vacuum. They come from your system of evaluation. You're trying to meet the same needs, but you have a different system of evaluation than I do. That's why we make different decisions. Most of us don't know why and how. One of the things I do is a very powerful demonstration is I look for someone who's suicidal, and in a group that large, there's always a couple. And they usually do about 20 pages of homework about the most significant events of their life, decisions they've made. So I read that in advance. It's a very intensive individual seminar. This last one, I had a woman who's lost her daughter, exact same thing. And I tried many things to get her through it, but eventually I had to become her. I had to like reverse roles, have her become me and become her, you know, to get her out of that state.
How do you do that?
It's you know, we are always going through hypnosis, you and I. People watching, you know, when they go in hypnosis, watch somebody go in an elevator, they push a button, they look at the ceiling and stand there. Most people drive in hypnosis. Hypnosis means you focus internally instead of outside. And when you focus internally, you tend to evaluate things very differently. So all I do is I ask some questions, and when you ask somebody a question, they go inside. And when I ask those questions, I then start acting like she's acting. And then I said, you're me now. And that's all I say is, you're me. And then I don't let her be herself. But in doing it, I took on her physiology. I began to breathe like she was breathing, put the look on my face she's having. Now, when you adopt someone's physiology, you literally begin to feel what they feel. I actually, in one of my seminars, teach people to do this as a way of building rapport, and you will, a third of the people see what that person's seeing. Somebody they've never met, and they go, you're on a boat, and there's a child with blonde hair, and they're wearing something red, and the name is Charles, and the person freaks out. This happens about a third of the time, no exaggeration. So, and most of the time, they get the same feeling. I felt what she's feeling. I started spontaneously just crying hysterically, which was kind of a freak out because I was trying to help her. I eventually was able to help her, but I have done this for 24 years of my life. And I deal with suicide every time there, and turn them around, show why the person is suicidal.
You can spot them.
Oh, it's not difficult. One guy in the same room.
But is it all demeanor? It's all the way they...
No, it's all demeanor. Sometimes people have great external demeanor, but I read their forums and I know what's going on in their life, right? And then sometimes they just volunteer. I'd say, who is suicidal here, you know? And someone's hysterically, and they'll raise their hand because it's their last chance, their last hope. You know, there was one man in the same room who was going to commit suicide and kill his children because he couldn't leave them here alone. So I had to go after him. And you go, God, these are the people who attend your seminars? Well, most people go in our peak performance, total achievers, but even amongst achievers, it's there.
Do you do this in front of everybody else? In other words, you got 15,000 people there, and you...
not 15,000 is a different type of event.
This is like 100 or 50?
1,000 is the smallest thing I do, yeah. So,
wait, come on. 1,000 is the smallest thing you do?
That is the most intimate environment I'm in at this stage, yeah. So,
really? And why is that? Because why
because only so many days in my life, and I want to reach as many people as I can. And more than I started with 100 and thought I couldn't do more than 100. I got to 1,000, and to be able to support people at that individual level, it's hard to go beyond. I'm sure I could.
But then you don't do one-on-one counseling for people?
I do. I do coaching. I was with a guy today who's a financial trader. He made $500 million in a day and then lost money for many years. So I turned him around, and he's done extremely well. So
you turned him around? Yeah,
he made money from the very first. I worked with him for 6 years. I helped him to identify when he was at his very best how he made decisions, and that was affected by 2 things: his cognitive processes, the way he evaluated, right, and his state. Meaning, we all have times in our life, I'm sure even you have done this here, when you say something.
Don't be so quick.
Oh, you know, no, maybe not. But when you've done something and after you've done it, I can't believe I said that, I can't believe I did that, so stupid. But you've also had times where after you've done something you were like, that was me, I'm impressed. I don't know how I did it, but I'm impressed. So it's not ability, it's the state you're in. So I helped him figure out what he was doing when I was at his peak performance. I did that by watching videos of him, by interviewing people around him, and I found out what he was doing with his body. When you're in a certain state, when you're in a passionate state, you move differently, you breathe with them, you talk differently than when you're really feeling depressed.
Now, is this like visualization in part?
No.
No?
No, it's every emotion you have, you only experience by your body. If I said there's a depressed person behind camera number 1, tell me what their posture's like without looking. I bet you know.
Oh, sure.
Down. Okay, now how do you know that? Because to create depression, you have to drop your shoulders. You have to drop your breath.
Well, it's just that people are not sort of like this.
That's right. And if you take somebody who's depressed and you just change their physiology, as overly simplistic as that is, in that instant, you will change their state completely. Now, you can't just change their physiology. You then have to change their beliefs.
That's why a lot of actors will look at a walk to get into the character.
That's correct, because they'll start to actually feel it. But so why not look at the walk you want, the life you want, and emulate that physiology? Because
that sounds so easy.
I know. No one wants the easy answer, even when it's real.
Okay, well, is it real?
It's absolutely real.
That you just adopt the walk that you want? And I mean, here's the interesting example about this. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I use it frequently. The notion of George Patton. George Patton visualized, assumed, thought about what a great general ought to be. Now, he adopted certain external manifestations in terms of the clothes, in terms of the pearl-handled revolver, in terms of all that stuff. But he, in a sense, became what he had imagined.
Well, here's what I tell people.
Is that true or not true?
I believe it's totally true. If I said to you, Charlie, close your eyes, and I want you to imagine an 82-year-old man. Just imagine what he's like.
Cary Grant.
Okay. Very nice. That was good. I'm impressed. That was good. Touche. I'll do that in a seminar, and then I'll bring out a man who's 82, I know, who bench presses 410 pounds and looks like he's 50. And I say, is this what you pictured? What most people picture is somebody older, bunched over. And
wrinkled,
I say, that is the archetype you're moving towards. We all have an archetype.
See,
but that's not the only thing. It's physiology. It's not only physiology. But in this case, this man, you got to change his physiology to get his state back so that his mind starts working. And so that's a combination of biochemistry and movement. Then you got to take the mental strategies that worked, and that's how I got him to make money. And so, I mean, I've been with him for 6 years.
You've been working with this guy for 6 years? It didn't take early?
No, it did, but he pays me $1 million a year plus a percentage of his increase because last year I said to him, look.
Wait a minute. He pays you $1 million
that's what I get for coaching.
Percentage
of his increase.
Of his increase.
Right.
So if he went, I mean, is this 10%, 20%? What is this?
No, but it's sizable. It's not a sizable percentage. It's a sizable
How many of these
money.
clients do you have?
I've had 7, and I pared them down because I couldn't honestly service them at the level they want to.
I'm not making fun of it. I'm saying this is amazing. Because here's my point. It's got to be worth it to him.
Well,
last year, pay you.
Last year I told him, I said, look, now we're like best friends. I said, A, I'd do this for free. B, the amount of time I spend, it costs me. This is worth this to me at this stage of my life. Why don't you just do it yourself? Because I know what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, because he journals every day.
And I can do other things to make that money.
Well, not only that, but
just do it that way.
But he said to
my
me,
time is valuable to me, too.
Yeah, but it's not that, because I enjoy being with him. I just don't want to be a taker in any relationship.
So you said what, he said what?
He says to me, are you insane just knowing you're going to call? He said, you're my insurance policy. He said, I know, I got to do it. He said, it's an insurance policy, it's a measurement.
This is a weak human being.
Oh, you met this man, you would not say that.
Well, it's true, though.
Not even slightly.
He needs your call?
No, what he needs to maximize his potential is something to measure on a regular basis.
But why can't at some point we put this guy out on his own?
He absolutely can, but he performs a level most people never dream of. So let me ask you a question. If I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be the best hero in the world, am I going to use every resource?
Does not need you every time he goes out. Hello.
This person doesn't need me either every time he goes out. I'm not there going out.
But he was saying, he just said to you, I wait for the phone call.
No, he didn't say wait for the phone call. Knowing I'm going to call makes him maximize. Why did Michael Jordan have a coach?
Because he wants to please you? Because
why did Michael Jordan have a coach? Why did Michael Jordan say one of the reasons he was leaving?
The coach didn't tell him how to shoot, didn't tell him how to play.
No, the coach told him absolutely what he needed to do in situations where he saw little things that were off target. Yeah. And Michael Jordan as a coach.
A better example is there's a profile of Herman in today's paper who is Tiger Woods' coach, and he's over there, and they're, I mean, I understand that process.
So, but what you're doing is you're making it as dependency rather than coaching. But what I say to him is, here's the real truth, though, also. Everybody needs a coach. I have people coach me. Everybody does.
Man, I need him. I wish I had
them. Are you a
them.
weak son of a gun? What's the matter with you?
Well, no, it's true.
Waiting for
I don't know where to go. Damn it, I don't know where to go. I'm calling you tomorrow because I can think about how much better I could be.
No, but what it is
in terms of maximizing my performance, understanding my inner self. What?
Well, not even that. In his performance, the 250 hitter versus a 333 hitter. The 250 hitter the 333 hitter gets one more hit every 12 at bats. The 250 hitter makes $500,000 a year, a lot of money, but not in baseball. Okay. 333 makes $7 million. So
now here's the question.
One more hit makes a difference.
Here's the question.
Yeah.
Is it that you can take people who have the natural potential and who are, because of all kinds of things, they're not realizing the natural potential, and they've got all kinds of barriers that have gotten in the way, all kinds of atrophy and everything else, and you can strip that away, and give them or transfer to them or whatever the term.
Uncovered. They already have
uncovered.
it.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's my point. But they got to already have it.
Everybody
You can't
does.
take somebody who is born, who will never be better than a 250 hitter because that's the max of his athletic ability, and make him into a 320 hitter.
No,
Can you?
No.
So you're
but
only
here's the
taking
truth.
people who have not maxed out of their potential by a wide margin.
Who do you think that is?
99% of the world.
Thank you. So, but here's the truth.
All right.
Most of us have undersold ourselves
Yeah.
on a very deep level, whether it be how much passion we really could have in our life,
Right.
whether it be
I
how
agree.
vitally healthy we could be.
I agree.
And so what's happening is everyone has that, including me. So I look for those coaches. I believe who you are is who you spend time with. That the
Who
quality,
you are, who you spend time with.
yeah, who you spend time with is who you become. Because whoever you spend time with affects your beliefs and your values, and your need for their love, their attention, their significance will affect. If I'm going to play tennis and I play someone worse than I am on a regular basis, I am not going to get better.
Right. So you
If
play
I
with
spe-
Agassi.
Yeah, you do that. Even if you play terrible, your skill sets are going to grow significantly because of your desire to connect and to play at that level. So I personally believe mentoring is the biggest thing missing from our society. A huge part of what I do in terms of my foundation's work is mentoring for kids because, you know, people say, well, we should do something about the values of the family. Well, that's a nice discussion, but the thing you can do is a relationship with a child where you just care about him. You don't have to be the most skilled person. You don't have to be perfect. All you got to do is care and be honest. Transforms a child's life. And most children today have more choices than any time in human history and the least amount of guidance that's ever existed. And that's why we have a crisis where we have kids picking up guns and shooting people because we don't have that.
So go give me the Robbins solution. I agree with you 100%. So tell me what it is that America should be doing for its children, and if it's mentoring, how do you go about it?
What's
the mechanism? What's the process?
There's lots of them. I mean, you could just, as an individual, you can go out and have a lunch buddy. You can take somebody and say, for the next 6 months, I'm going to take this child out twice a month for lunch and just talk and maybe do a field trip of fun with them. My solutions, I like to look at systems. I look at it and say, mentoring will never pervade the culture unless it's team mentoring because you can't get enough mentors. There are lots of kids that want them and they can't get them. So team mentoring will take it to scale. On the model, I look for models. There's a model in LA that worked during the riots that uses a school teacher, so it's already the location exists, someone who knows the kids. It uses college students, it's somebody young enough to relate to, and it uses a businessman, but then they have a group of 6 or 10 or 12 or 15 kids. And so each mentor is coaching 3 or 4. That helps the mentor succeed. Sometimes the kid doesn't respond, you got 3 or 4, you got a chance one's going to respond, so the mentor stays reinforced in the game. There are other people with them mentoring, so they're not alone. There's not the feeling of loneliness. So it meets some of the needs we're talking about, connection and certainty and so forth. And my view of it is to create a syllabus, which we're currently working on, and when you get to 10% of a school's population, and I've got a breakdown because our foundation is doing this for the whole United States, and you look at the junior high school student, which I believe is every time's critical time, but probably the most critical time, when kids are going from peer group at home usually to a new peer group, when they're going through the first change in their hormones. That's the place that if you can intercede, I believe you have the largest amount of leverage. And so if you can teach these kids to become young leaders, that is, by having Michael Jordan on video share with the story of his life, and they start finding out Michael did not make the varsity basketball team his sophomore year. Right? And he starts telling the story.
I've lived by that for a long time.
And they see that. And then there's a syllabus of what they do that's fun, and they have somebody who's interested in them, and they have other students. When you get 10% of a population, say a school of 1,000 kids, you have 100 kids doing this, 10 groups of 10. You begin to affect a critical mass of the mindset, because when the mentor leaves, these kids know each other and they start setting new standards for how they're going to live their life, and they're reinforced for it. So I set out when I was very young, my family was very poor. We had a Thanksgiving, no money, no food. We weren't going to starve. We weren't going to have a feast. We weren't going to have any food. Somebody fed my family. I answered the door. It triggered me. Last year, my foundation, we worked with people. We fed 1 million people last year. It started with me feeding 3 families. So I believe that little ideas can be grown into institutions. And my life is a reflection of that. I've built, a portion of an industry that didn't exist in the way that I do it. So I believe that in mentoring, this can be done. So I have right now 100 partners that are all putting up together $1 million to fund the syllabus of this. And we're working with teachers that we're already in about 1,200 school systems with different programs to get a uniform syllabus that can create this leadership program. It's not the whole answer, but it's one. But we need mentors. And people that come to my seminars and so forth, the same people that feed people are the kinds of people I think that can be great mentors. But anyone can do it. That's one approach. There are so many that are going on, and thanks to like America's Promise, I was a part of helping to create that with Colin Powell.
Right.
And it has stimulated that massively, and I think we're making huge progress. We've got a couple million mentors that we didn't have a few years ago.
What did you do for Nelson Mandela?
I didn't do anything with Nelson Mandela. I had a conversation with Nelson Mandela, and I think I got more out of Nelson Mandela than he did me. Someone else put me with Nelson Mandela to see if I couldn't assist him in the evaluation of how he was going to integrate some members of his council, and truthfully, I left with a lot more. Gorbachev is somebody that I helped deal with the transition afterwards of how to deal with the situation that he went through when he was ousted, because all of a sudden he was the devil in his own country. Sure. The very people loved him. But with Nelson Mandela, I don't feel like I really did anything. I learned from Nelson Mandela. I had experience with Nelson Mandela, probably you did.
Yeah, what did you learn?
I learned what a human being is capable of was greater than I even thought. To have someone take a quarter of a century of your life and not come out with pure hatred, and be able to say, to win, like we were talking before we were on the air, to win over your guards as your friends, to honor them as you inaugurate as the president of the country, to say, I don't care what you did to me, let's change. And
by your personal conduct to demand their respect, in which they gave it. Yeah. But here's the interesting thing about him. For the first half of his time, he was angry, rebellious, and finally, I think
he shifted to preparing.
Shifted to something else.
Yeah.
He shifted to a sense. So you said preparation to you, and he said to me, he just said, at some point I realized that it was not productive.
Well, you know what? That's true of all human beings. I don't care what a human being does. If they have enough time, they'll satiate that emotion. If the emotion is anger, they'll get a point where they're tired of being angry, and then they'll get sad. If they're sad all the time, they'll finally get pissed off just to get out of that state. Yeah. Human beings left alone will eventually gravitate to something else unless they get reinforced. Like by being angry, I respond to you all the time, then you learn to get angry because I always react to you. Or being sad all the time, I give you love, well, pretty soon you get sad, you don't even know why, because you want love. But he is an amazing man. He is more than the product of satiation. He is a man who made conscious choices to rise above hatred and anger and to really serve. And I think there are very few people that have lived their life the way he's lived his life, and I think that's why he inspires people.
But some of that comes from just wisdom and the capacity to learn from experience.
True, and it comes from his childhood, because as his childhood he was unique even then in the way he was treated, the way he was raised. He was raised to be a leader to some extent.
Do you have any interesting opinions on genes versus environment, nature, nurture?
I think they both play a role. I think to say either one is alone is absurd. When people try to say everything is genetics, it's a joke.
Say genes are destined, you say, forget it. No.
But I'm 6'7". I was 5'1" in high school.
5'1" when you were senior high school?
Sophomore. And I grew 10 inches in a year. But I had a brain tumor, which I never even knew about, a pituitary tumor, which stimulated this growth in me, 10 inches a year. I mean, I know what growing pains are. It's something physical. And my brother is still like 5'4", I believe.
And so you grew because you had a pituitary
tumor, which I didn't know until
and what did it 10 years ago.
It stimulated, my pituitary gland stimulated massive growth hormone released in my body, and I exploded in size. But I didn't know anything about it, and because I'm a pilot, I every 2 years you go get a physical, and this time a doctor looked at me and he said, kind of like Schwarzenegger, he said, your cheekbone, everything else, and I didn't know what he's talking about. So he thought I had this challenge, and so without telling me, he took a blood test, and he said, I want to do an operation on you. He said, you have this massive excess growth hormone, and you have a pituitary tumor. I said, whoa. I came in, there was nothing wrong with me, and now you want to do an operation. Wait. So fortunately, I'm fairly strong-willed, and I went to about 9 people. I don't think I'm exaggerating, probably 6 different doctors. And it turned out I did have a pituitary tumor at one time, but it infarcated. It swallowed itself up. There's enough of it there that I have about $300 or $400 a day with the extra growth hormone if I had to buy it on the street as a bodybuilder.
But you did then, or you do now?
I do now, but I don't.
So what do you do with it?
I don't grow.
Well, where does it go?
It makes me young and
no, I'm
strong
serious. I'm interested in your.
For God's sakes,
you're a help now.
Did you see that? Where does it go? But here's what's
we could use that growth hormone.
That's right. I have some friends who like to borrow some of it, give them a blood transfusion.
Exactly.
But where does that come from?
No, okay, but is there any danger to this?
Well, here's what's interesting. Here's a great example. The first doctor wanted to do surgery on me just to be safe. My heart valves aren't any bigger. There's nothing changed. Okay. Everything's fine. Just to be safe.
It didn't screw up any of your organs.
No, just want to be safe. I can't remember his name, but I came here to Boston to the father of endocrinology. I can't believe I can think of his name. But I was the last day of his career, his one of his last patients, not the last patient, one of the last ones. He saw me because he was a fan of my work. And he said, Tony, everything's great. I said, I got to talk to you. I said, I've talked to all these doctors. They want to either drug me or they want to cut me. He said, well, I think maybe you're afraid that if we cut that out, that you're like Superman or that's your kryptonite, or maybe it's like your hair for Hercules. And he kind of teased me a little bit. I said, you know what? He said, the only side effect of taking a drug would be you'd have lowered energy. And I said, you're damn right that would make me unhappy.
Yeah.
But I said, look, why is everybody doing this? He said, honestly, Tony, if I'm a butcher, I need to cut. He said, I'm an endocrinologist, so I need a drug.
Oh, man, that scares me.
No, it was so cool.
Oh.
I know.
Every surgeon, therefore, ought to be suspect?
No, not every surgeon. But that's when you're trained to do what you do, and your whole life is about the certainty of doing. You want to help somebody. So you don't.
That's what you know how to do. You don't know the other part.
So in the end, he recommended I take a drug that I'd go take a shot in Switzerland from. And I said, frankly, I think I'm going to pass. He goes, but then you could just be certain. I said, no, you could be certain. So 3 months later, as a doctor, Steve Hoffman in L.A. is a great man. And he's a facial surgeon. He's a good friend of mine.
I know.
I
don't know him. No, I know.
Yeah, he's a great man. And so he comes up.
Facial surgery, Tony. I'll get there soon.
Okay. Me either yet. I'll be there someday. He pulled out an article and he shows me that same drug the FDA just says creates cancer. So then Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, go ahead.
Deepak Chopra is a friend of mine, and Deepak, I saw him.
Celebrity has its value.
Yeah, I talked to Deepak, and he said, look, and he said, Tony, you do have a. He said, but I would never drug somebody. I would never, cut out. And he said, there's nothing wrong, but I'd already decided not to do anything. So, do I have certainty? Here's what I have certainty of. I can walk across the street tomorrow and get hit by a car. I have no reason to see there's anything changed in my body, so why would I cut something out or drug myself? I think that cutting or drugging would do something.
Okay, you're telling me that the bottom line of this story is that you left it alone.
Correct. And what my certainty comes from is I decide to be certain. I decide not to question.
All right. So if something happens, you'll say, well, that's a chance I took. I decided to leave it alone. And did you go back to the first doctor and say to him, look, I've been...
We had a spirited conversation.
Thank God you said I didn't let you cut me.
I did. I was very direct with him. And I was more direct with this. He said he wanted to cut me before he even had done a scan. I said that's totally inappropriate. When I asked him about the test, he couldn't explain the test. He's very complex. And I said, well, I'm not that stupid. Yeah. Explain it to me. But listen, I'm not on the doctor's case. All of them...
No.
Listen to me. No, hear me honestly. All of them were trying to do what they believed would save my life.
Yeah. So everybody had your welfare in their best interest.
And they were doing it through their model of the world.
Yeah.
And they were trying to be certain.
And what's the moral of this story?
It's 10 years later, and my body hasn't changed in any way. I'm totally healthy and fine, and I didn't alter. I haven't. My heart valves, everything they measure is totally fine.
Yeah.
So all I seem to have is a great deal
a lot of growth hormones.
So now you know my secret. My motivation comes from growth hormone, for God's sake.
So tell me this: is there anything missing for you?
That's a great question. I am right now the happiest I've been in my lifetime, and the piece that was missing. I'm sure there'll be something else because part of growth is, finding something missing, I'm sure. But the thing that was missing was allowing myself to fully enjoy what I was giving others. And I can tell you...
You weren't enjoying it?
I thought I was enjoying it, but it's like telling somebody what a rose smells like who's never smelled a rose. Or what, favorite food tastes like who's never tasted it. It's like, by the standards I had then, I was enjoying it.
So for a long time you were deluding yourself.
Correct. Because it's a matter of measure. I wasn't.
So the teacher wasn't perfect, was he?
No, the teacher's never perfect. I never pretend to be perfect. I'm not perfect now. But I'll tell you what I am. I'm damn happy. I'm damn happy.
Because you learned to enjoy
because I stopped sacrificing just as my only life.
Okay, let me help you understand this, because I think it's important. Yeah. You learn no longer to be a martyr, which you said earlier.
I don't want to say I was ever a martyr, but I was. I'm sure it's
a little bit. And you secondly learned to enjoy the fact that you were giving, and that there was joy to be given. Is that it? I'm trying to make sure.
I want to be accurate in my response. The greatest gift of my life is I'll walk down this street in New York today, and I'll be stopped half dozen times minimum, or a dozen times, and people will come up to me and say, "Oh my God, I love you." I mean, I am so gifted the amount of love. Huh? It's It's better than any amount of money you could ever earn, any little trophy you could get, or anything else. It's the greatest gift of my life because I've helped millions of people, or they've helped themselves, and I've been a catalyst to it. Right. So, I've always loved that, but I've always felt like I have to give more, do more, and now what's happening is I'm coming to a place of I get to give more and do more, and I let myself have those moments where I just go, wow, tomorrow I'll be on stage, I'm sure it'll happen, and there's a point when the room will be, 20,000 people up to the top of the rafters, and they will be in such a passionate, playful, powerful state, and I know I'll pop out of my body and look at it and go, oh, this is my life. How cool, how amazing, how blessed
You
I
will
am.
do that?
Oh yeah, I will absolutely do that. And I'll
But
think about blessed I am. I'll feel
did you
so
not
grateful.
do that 2 years ago?
No, I'd be focused on who's the one person I'm missing. You know, is there anybody there that's not? Now make sure. You know, and even if they all are, okay, there must be some. I run
Or is
to the
anybody I
rafters.
haven't convinced?
Well, it's not so much convinced. Is there anybody who's really not happy? My thing has been making everybody happy, and so now I also know, and this I'm still working on, frankly, that I care about everybody, but I'm not responsible for everybody. Because sometimes, frankly, like I did this thing with a suicide. It took 2 people that are going to commit suicide, and I've done this every year, and we follow them up. They don't commit suicide. They're changed, transformed. And I was actually sad because I thought about, especially the guy that was going to kill his kids, because he didn't want them to have to go through not having anyone there for them. I mean, it's bizarre psychology. And he's a good man. He's a really good man. But I started thinking about all the people who I will never reach. And knowing that I can help and that I'm not, I got myself sadder than hell. It was stupid as can be. And so what that comes from is the ego saying, I care so much, nobody else does. I'm the only one who can do it, which is complete bullshit. So I have to balance that. It comes from a good place of really just wanting to make that difference, but it needs to be in balance with also taking care of yourself. And right now I'm doing that, and I'm loving it. I know I'm able to help my friends with that. The gentleman I was telling you about coaching, I had a conversation with him today, and he had a day he lost $50 million, which affects your day a little bit. And I was reminding him of what life he has, and that his life has nothing to do with his trading, and realizing he is tied so much in his trading.
Life he has because he has a loving family, because he has
family, and because this man is a huge giver to contribution to society. There's some people that are in business
because he gets great joy from things, and et
no,
cetera,
because he gives. He's such a giver, you know. So, but you can't tell somebody that and affect them unless you're experiencing it. It's like, you know, there's an old story, you probably know it, where this woman takes her son to see Gandhi. It's a true story. And she travels, I guess, for 3 days. I forgot the exact time. She took trains. It was forever to get there. And she gets before the Mahatma, and she says, Mahatma, my son is a diabetic, and he keeps eating sugar, and he loves you and respects you so much. If you would just look him in the eyes and say, stop eating sugar, he'll stop, you'll save his life. And Mahatma Gandhi reportedly said, come back in 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, whatever the real number was. And the woman said, no, you understand, we live so far away. And he said, very harshly, come back in 3 weeks. And pushed her away and waved her off. So she's very angry, but she loved her son. So 3 weeks later, she goes through the same trip. She travels forever, right? She gets before him. Now she's before the Mahatma. She says, remember me? He goes, yes, I do. And he looks at the boy and says, stop eating sugar. He looks right in the boy's eyes with such intensity. The boy's eyes get about this big, and he bows to this, Mama. Yes, Mama. The woman can barely hold it back. She is pissed. She doesn't care if he's Gandhi. You know, she's a mom. And she says, why didn't you do that 3 weeks ago? And he said, because 3 weeks ago, ma'am, I was eating sugar. So you can talk a good game, but the power in life, your power in life is you've experienced all kinds of things, and that allows you to connect with all kinds of people. You're a diverse person, and that's stroking you. You know who you are. My power in life is the same. I've been with millions of people in every walk of life, and I've lived my own life, and I don't bullshit myself. That's not true. I bullshit myself every now and then, but I catch myself, and I go, that's bullshit. Yeah. And when I do, whatever experience I go through, I learn from it, and so I can talk to somebody about it with authority because I really have experienced it, and I can talk about it without judgment because I've been the idiot that did it. So I don't have a judgment for somebody. I go, look, here's what I did. I was dumb. Have you ever done something like that? Here's what I did that changed it, and you can reach most people then.
What's the difference in the people who get it and it sticks,
yes,
and those who get it but it doesn't stick? They can't keep the program.
Standards. It's the only difference in people's lives. What is a must for you and what is a should for you is the difference in your life. Everybody gets their must. If it's a must for you to spend time with your children, I don't care how busy you are, you will. If it's a should, you'll want to do it, you'll do sometimes, but you'll feel guilty about it most of the time. People earn what they must earn, not a dime more. I don't care who they are. And when people change their lifestyle and certain things they're now a must, they always have the money for it because it's a must. People, if a person's not in a relationship, an intimate relationship, it's because it's a must not to be hurt. If they're in a relationship and they're friends and there's no passion, it's because it's a must to be friends, but not a must for passion. If they're in a relationship and they're in love and they're passionate, then that's a must. We get our must. And the difference in the must is I believe people's lives are a direct reflection of the expectations of their peer group.
Finally. Right? Tell me what dreamlife.com is.
Dreamlife is a place where you can enter the universe of how to improve anything in your life from the best teachers around the world, 24 hours a day, and at a cost that's ridiculous because it's free for most of it. There's classes that you can take as well, but You're able to meet people from around the world. You're able to learn everything from how to strip for your lover to how to learn another language to how to be able to trade financially online. It's a diverse world where you can enter the world of improving yourself and meet all kinds of people and have a community that you can be a part of if you choose to. And it's a public company, so it's an investor's vehicle as well for people, and it's something that I'm passionate about because, to me, the online world is in its infancy. The second wave of the internet is the media internet, and when we have full motion video, the equivalent of that with everybody, and not having to load a player and so forth, then the internet becomes really the most extraordinary thing in human history. It already is one of them. But I think we're about to see a quantum leap in that in the next 2, 3, or 4 years. And so I'm really honestly creating the space where the best teachers can teach and people can teach each other and build a community that's constantly improving.
Nice to have you.
Pleasure. I enjoyed it. Thank you. You got quite a grip there. Give me that hand.
Tony Robbins, thank you for joining us. See you next time.